Welcome back to the Ugly Games YouTube channel. My name is Justin, and I'm here today to talk to you about lore and its place in your TTRPG. So, you're writing an RPG. Maybe you've been focusing on a couple of ideas for mechanics. Maybe you have the bare bones of a setting worked out. Maybe you've been focusing on the genre your game will exist in. While focusing on all of those things is very good, there is another thing that I think you should be focusing on as well. That is the lore. Where your genre and mechanics are your categorization, your game's lore is its identity. Think of a game's lore as anything that adds to the context of the current day in your universe. It's its history. It's what can turn your game from a simple D20 based system to a science fiction TTRPG set in a universe at war. And it's your job as the game creator to believably set up that war, or whatever is going on in your universe, with your lore. The RPG I'm working on, Awakened, is set in the year 4056, which meant that when we sat down to start writing our lore, we had to come up with what happened from the present to the year 4056. So what did we do? We sat down, stared at a blank page for a while, and plotted out what we thought would happen. This wasn't a particularly easy or exciting process. It took multiple sessions of racking our brain in the same room, going, what if this happened? And then pontificating on the ramifications of that for an hour. An important thing to note is that during this process, if you get stuck, it's often better to just make a choice, note it, and keep going. Often it's easier to change something that's there than to create something that doesn't exist. Just get something down and come back to it a little later to see if you like it or not. If you do, great. If you don't, at least you didn't waste time and got to write all that stuff beyond that bit that's giving you trouble. So yeah, the lore took a while, but we had a goal in mind that kept us going. Find a believable reason for things to be the way they are when you enter our game. Set up the context. Was anyone going to ever see half the notes that we took on what we thought might happen? No, probably not. What we end up showing the public will hopefully be a simple, fine-tuned, broad explanation of the universe's history. But you don't create that first try. It's only possible to create that if you sit down and make the bones first. Connect the dots and make things make sense. A benefit to starting work on your lore early is that you can get more of a chance to have the history of your game affect the game's mechanics. One example is Deadlands Classic, a Western horror RPG. The game is actually set in an Old West steampunk world, so they actually have parts of the game determined by choosing cards out of a poker deck, jokers and all. Another example of the lore being used well to determine the mechanics is Call of Cthulhu. I personally love the simplicity of their outcome mechanic. Cthulhu is basically all lore, but one of the themes of that lore is the theme of being this tiny little speck in a world full of very big, scary specks. They use this to their advantage by setting their outcome mechanic to 2d10 with the goal of rolling under your skill level to succeed in a skill. So say I have a 25 in firearm handling. When I roll, I know that with my 2d10s, I have to roll under 25 to succeed at my attempt. This shows me my exact chance to succeed, 25%, while showing me just how screwed I am if I'm ever in a situation that ever requires shooting a gun. My dice are mechanically stacked against me to show how little I am, to tell me that maybe this isn't the way I'm supposed to play this game. In Awakened, the players play characters that have what is referred to as awakened souls. Their awakened soul gives them limited but strong abilities. You can customize your personal awakened abilities from a big list, but one of the abilities that everyone gets is a mechanic simply called outcome points. You have a certain number of these points per day to add to your rolls and attempts. For example, let's say I go to stealth up behind someone and steal their keys, and I miff it and roll a 7. Because in the lore, I'm essentially this gifted being with these extra outcome points, I'd have the ability to put in a little extra effort and add as many of those points to my rolled number as I like, and I could easily turn a middling roll into a success. While limited, these points give a player more choice in how their character performs throughout the day rather than just relying on them rolling the die. It gives agency to the characters and provides a direct way for the players to influence tactics. So, that's the video. Are there any lore-based mechanics that I didn't mention? I'm sure there are, so go ahead and leave them in the comments. If you like this video, please consider giving it a like and subscribing. Have a topic you want to hear? Leave it in the comments and it might be the basis for my next video. Stay ugly.